Oh, wow, the moon's almost totally eclipsed, and look at the beautiful Pleiades, seven little sisters up there in the sky. Hey, everybody, Stargazer Mark here with you as you are staying star curious on Stay Curious. For every Monday, we bring you me, Stargazer Mark, and what's up in the sky from your own backyard. And this week, we're going to be talking about keeping you up late Thursday night, actually getting up early Friday morning, the crack of dawn, to see the moon eclipsed by the Earth's shadow. I'm going to tell you all about it here just a minute, but remember when you're stargazing outside, use your planisphere, a red flashlight, which I didn't bring today, so that your eyes, once they dilate to the darkness, don't get they contract, they dilate to the darkness, so they don't contract back down. Because you see so much more when you let your eyes get used to the night. You all know that. Just flip the switch off in your bedroom tonight. 5 minutes later, you see everything in the room. So, also, I always have a drink and a snack with me because once you get your eyes adapted, it's so cool to be outside by yourself looking at the stars. You hear the noises of the night, you hear some animals, you might hear the road, just everything is such sensory. And then you might see a meteor flash by, and that is always a delight. But what we're going to talk about today is a partial eclipse of the sun. It's actually going to be almost a total eclipse, 90%. I said sun, the moon. This is a nighttime event where the moon is crossing into the Earth's shadow. Well, this is going to happen starting at about 2 o'clock Friday morning, the 19th. So that's Thursday night. The partial eclipse begins when the Earth sneaks into the Earth's shadow, when the moon sneaks into the Earth's shadow. I'm going to show you that in a minute on a graphic. And then maximum's at 4:02. So I'm going to tell you, set your alarms for 3:30 in the morning, get up, you'll have a cup of coffee, be wide awake, get outside on the porch in the backyard. And this is all over the East Coast, Eastern Standard Time, times I'm giving you here. And let's look and see, this is all over the Americas, Northern Europe. Northern Europe now, it's going to be an evening event, obviously. And but this November's full moon is called the Beaver Moon because beavers are damming up the creeks and so forth, bringing in all kinds of food for the winter. And uh, this will actually be one of the longer eclipses of this century because the moon is kind of far away from the Earth. It's not close like that supermoon, full moon, when it's close to the Earth in its elliptical orbit. It's more like 275,000 miles away instead of 240. So it's going to look smaller and take a little more time to go through the part of the Earth's atmosphere, Earth's shadow that it's going through. Let's explain all that here. And let me go to, thank you very much. We'll go to there we go. The partial lunar eclipse, Thursday. It's actually all Friday morning. So you say Thursday night going into Friday. And what you see here is the edge of the sun, everything in space. And I'm going to use this as a everything casts a shadow in space. All right. Here's our beautiful Earth. All right. And if the sun is right here in front of me, on the other side of it, behind here is the shadow that it's casting. Over there's Marty behind the controls. Jessica, she's over there helping Marty out, trying to keep me straight. So if I'm pointing the globe to them, that is the source of the sun. I would be in a shadow. And here comes the moon behind the Earth. And from my perspective, the Earth is eclipsing the moon. But from the sun's perspective, a shadow is being cast on it, and the moon is traveling through that shadow. Okay, and my moon there, that's got Charlie Mars' signature on it. It's got some dents on it. You can see there. There's the size that we see there. Everything casts a shadow. You see that when the sun's out. Your body casts a shadow. Trees and so forth. We love the morning and evening time because the shadows are long and give us interesting relief for our eyes to judge distances and so forth. It's hard to judge distances around noontime. Here again, thank you, Jessica, is what's going on. A solar eclipse is when the moon is between. If you are the sun, I'm between you and the Earth, and it makes a dark spot on the Earth that travels along a certain area. only a certain area sees a total eclipse of the sun or partial because the moon's shadow is not as big as the Earth's. We move them around when when the moon is full, it is opposite the sun. Uh, so it's either above or below the shadow. Okay, that's why we see the full moon. It's above it or below it. But a couple times a year, it cuts right through that shadow. And Thursday night, actually Friday morning at 2 o'clock is when it's going to start to do that. And it's going to look like this in the sky, okay? At 2:30 in the morning, you're going to see, and actually look at how the moon is white there in the one graphic. Thank you, Jessica. Yep. But that's the 2 o'clock, but the Earth's shadow is a lot larger. It's that whole big circle there. Whole white circle is the Earth's shadow. And the moon is just cutting through a part of it. Yep. And it's actually just trimming along the edge of it. If it was going just a little more inside, we'd have a total eclipse. Now see that image over here to the far right? Right below there, Jessica. Yeah, that's probably what it's going to look like at total phase, all right? It's going to be a lot darker, and that's going to be cool. It might assume some colors depending on how much atmospheric refraction we have going on. This is what's showing you a composite that I made out of that 2019 eclipse. Everybody can do this. It's fun to do. But you're going to look there at the sky. Unfortunately, there's not going to be many landmarks low. It's going to be so high in the sky you can't get a landmark on the horizon to get your beautiful photograph with. So get under a tree or something like that. But the Pleiades star cluster is going to be right up above. How about what?
Get out there a little early so you see the full moon.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And then watch it.
Yeah. Get out there and have fun. People love the full moon. It's Thursday night going into Friday. So if you're off Fridays, lose a little sleep. Do some stargazing. Now you're still going to see Jupiter and Saturn, okay, but the other galaxies and nebula, the moonshine drowns them out, all right? That's why astronomers don't talk about going out and observing during full moon because we can't see all those faint fuzzies. But full moonshine and this kind of moonshine, you cannot hurt you, okay? You can't get too much of this moonshine. Unlike a solar eclipse where you don't want to look at the sun when the moon's passing in front of it, the daytime event, yes, that can hurt your eyes. But some people ask, no, this is perfectly safe, no filters. In fact, the best thing to watch it with are binoculars. And if you don't have a binocular stand, and we'll talk about those on a Stay Curious, Star Curious, we'll talk about binoculars and some of the mounts you can buy for them. Hold binoculars with your arms against your chest so you hold them steadier. You don't want them out here so they're all wobbling around and everything. Or set them on top of a fence or something while you're looking at them. But basically, you can always, there's a screw in the middle between the binoculars that a mount can be attached to. You can buy them as easily as $10 to put on your tripod.
Get it on Amazon.
Check that out. Get Amazon Smiles on the American Space Museum. And help benefit us there. So, a little bit of now. Let's go back to a couple hundred years, a couple thousand years. All right, and we're wondering what this eclipse is all about. Of course, these things weren't figured out really until about 400 years ago, with Galileo and Kepler and all those guys coming on the scene, Newton and so forth. But it was actually the Greeks that over 2,000 years ago saw the full moon and saw the shadow of the earth on it being a curve, and the Greeks knew that the earth was round, okay? Now, they might not have been sure if it was flat or not, okay, like some flat earthers, but no, it's definitely round, and we're definitely not flat. Guess what? NASA has checked that. So, let's see, what else we got here? A little bit of history. I'm trying to emphasize that the several cultures had myths relating to the moon. Good and bad omens was the eclipse of the moon. The Egyptians saw a pig swallowing the moon for a short time. The Mayan tradition was that a jaguar was taking the moon hostage until the king gave riches to the poor people. The Chinese had a legend with a toad. A three-legged toad was responsible for swallowing the moon. And some of the earliest astronomers were in the area of Mesopotamia, that is today's Iran and Iraq. They believed the lunar eclipse was the moon being attacked by 7 demons, and they had to make someone a pretend king so he would be attacked instead of the true king. So a lot of myths and legends sprung up over the lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse. None so prominent, or do you hear so much than youth than have I heard all my life, basically, that Christopher Columbus on March 1st, 1504, was in what we call today's Jamaica. And his men were hungry, and the natives weren't cooperating with him. Christopher Columbus's men, when you know the history of it, came to conquer, so it's not the prettiest scene you would think, with them conquering these Native Americans and on the islands and so forth. But so he knew that a total eclipse of the moon was going to happen from an ephemeris, probably from the German astronomer Regiomontanus. All right, and but he claimed that the prediction came from the almanac of another, of course, Spanish astronomer. But he knew what time was going to happen, and he said, I'm going to start the moon to disappear, and he did. And the natives got so freaked out when the moon completely disappeared under a blood red sky, or blood red image of it, and gave him what he wanted. And that was March 1st, 1504. All right, 100 years before the invention of the telescope and when Galileo turned it onto the skies. So Christopher Columbus tied to the eclipse of the moon. You'll be seeing beautiful scenes like this on all kinds of Friday morning when you wake up. One of the good places to see images is spaceweather.com, and we'll try to throw a few up on our Facebook presence. Hope you get out and look at this beautiful partial lunar eclipse Thursday night. Actually, I'd set my alarm for 3 o'clock or 3:30 Friday morning. Get up, like I said, wake up a little bit, go outside. Some of you where it's cooler out there need to get warmed up maybe, because totality, the most it's going to be covered is at 4:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is 9:02 Greenwich Mean Time, where our time starts and goes 24 hours around. Greenwich Mean Time's right there in England, an actual geographic point in there. So the next eclipse of the moon, you won't have to wait too much longer. It's going to be on May, let me get the date right, May, where's my sheet? All right. The next eclipse, there's 2 total eclipses in 2022. The next one's May 15th, the night of May 15th, and then the night of November 8th. And May 15th, it goes into the 16th, so it starts at like 11 o'clock and goes into there. So that will be a pleasant one because everybody will be out of winter, having a good time, wanting to get out. And we certainly hope we'll take you along for that. So all of you amateur astronomers out there, not even or people are interested in photography, just a couple tips to maximize doing an eclipse like this is a collage that they put together, of course, in Photoshop. But number one, if you're an artist of any kind, go out and be inspired by this. You are watching celestial motion, something that the ancients, even 500 years ago, couldn't explain. And now I've explained it to you. And you can go out and watch the moon moving at 2,100 miles an hour is going across our sky. It moves about a half a degree an hour. So every day it moves about 12.5 degrees, okay? And that's about your fist like this is about 10 degrees. So it's almost a full fist every day to the left as it orbits the Earth every 29.5 days. But this time it's cutting into the Earth's shadow. Where can you also see the Earth's shadow, Jessica and Marty? Remember that rising dark pink band that I call the Belt of Venus. Every night when the sun sets, you can see the Belt of Venus on a clear night, the pinkish band, and below it is the dark line of the Earth's shadow being thrown up into the space, okay? And of course, when it gets dark, you can see through that shadow. After all, you can see the sidewalk through your own shadow, right? Yes, you can. So to take a good picture, get a tripod, set your camera on a high ISO, like 1000, all right? I recommend that you find where your self timer button is, because when you push the button, that can jiggle your camera a little bit if you're not careful. And if you frame it and then push self timer, all that vibration goes out of there. And then if you have a telephoto lens, zoom in, do some experiments. Usually 250th of a second. You want to start maybe up to a thousandth of a second to get a good image, making sure you get those Maria, the dark areas of the moon, exposed, all right? You don't want the moon to look like a flashlight looking back at you. That's the key. So because you can look at your pictures digitally, look at them and adjust that exposure for the Maria of the seas. And then sit back and enjoy and adjust as the night goes on, like I'm going to this Friday morning. Like I might catch a nap and get up about 2 o'clock to see it starting, and try to get a palm tree overhead or something like that to make my picture look good. So you send us some pictures Friday morning so we can have them on our Stay Curious Friday program. So that is all about our Thursday night eclipse. We've got some questions or comments.
Got a comment from Robert Law. Looks like we have Aurora in Scotland tonight.
Oh, great, Robert. And he is about 11 o'clock at night up there in Dundee, Scotland. And aurora means the sun's been active. So enjoy that and get a picture of that and send it to us, Robert. We appreciate everyone in America and across the world watching us to stay curious. Please share this program with your friends on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And like us, share us, subscribe to us, follow us. But tell your friends that every weekday at 4 o'clock, you can get content where you get nowhere else from the American Space Museum and our team here at Stay Curious. Me, Marquette, Marty Winkle, who's been with me for a year and a half as co-producer, and Jessica Galloway, our Trekkie Techie, who's helped take us to the next level, all to help you stay curious. So join us tomorrow when we get back to space history, a few birthdays, and talk about some astronauts inducted into the Hall of Fame. And we'll be doing that. Hopefully you can come to our museum soon to bridge this space between us.